think you should go away. You should go away now. You need to go away because I'm not feeling very stable right now.
Well, hey!
Good to see you. Jeez, you never saw anything like this in the cop shows. Well, maybe on cable, not the network ones. You wouldn't know it from looking out there, but before that wicked bad fog rolled in, Kingsmouth was a sleepy little burg. Nothing stronger on the streets than a hot cup of coffee and chocolate-glazed donuts from Susie's. The occasional DUI or domestic disturbance. Human sacrifice. But every town has a dark side, right? We sure are getting a heaped help in the darkness now, eh? The Walking Dead and worse besides taking over our town. Us survivors hold up in here, hoping it's all just a bad dream and we'll wake up to the smell of bacon and maple syrup. But unless someone ups and does something, and soon, all we're gonna wake up to is the smell of rotten flesh. And I don't need another thing to remind me of my dad. Halloween does bring back the memories, eh?
Yeah. You'd think these wet bits would just fizzle on the bonfire, but no. They sparkle like kindling wood. That's heartening. Geez, what a mess. Good thing I'm not particular. Now I'm used to getting my hands dirty. Fish guts, childbirth, sutures, the dead. Yeah, maybe I was born for this work. That don't sound right. Nobody's made for this ungodly work. Except maybe this old thing. So I kill and I chop and I burn, but there's more of them every day, and I feel like I'm pushing a very big stone up a very steep mountain, and it keeps rolling back down. What do you call that? Sisyphean? Or is that when you get a burning in your privates? My idea of culture is reruns of Cheers and, not ancient Greek mythology. Well, the old gal ain't a proper match for everything that turns up on my doorstep. Seems she's too much for most of it. Spreads a bone of dead man's guts all over the place. There's no time to gather it all up before we're right back up in the thick of it. And they never stop coming. They never stop coming. Well now, I'm not much fit for entertaining, but I reckon you ain't much in the mood for hospitality either, am I right? Oh, I'm not a big talker, eh? I'm used to that from a surly husband, and kids more comfortable with kicking a ball around than having a conversation with their ma. Name's Nama. Nama Creed. Raised a family up here before this dungeon thick fog came took 'em is my story. Helen sent you over to check on me, I reckon. Now, your concern is wicked kind, but I don't need any pitying. I got my shotgun, I got what's left of my wits. I'll manage. Now, this hullabaloo began after the Lady Margaret came back. My husband Larry, the others, we all thought that they'd gone missing out there, but the sea took 'em. The day they came back, whole town could finally breathe again. But then came that fog. Like it was following them back to shore. 'Twas right, said they, such birds to slay, that bring the fog and mist. Don't ask me where I got that from. Probably heard it on Oprah. Never got to ask Larry about what happened in those weeks they were gone. Been around gift horses long enough not to look him in the mouth. He was back. Thought life would go on the way life goes on, one day at a time. When the fog lifts enough to see the Lady Margaret laid up in the harbor, covered in that red seaweed, I always wonder if he'd still be here if I had.
Ain't this a heck of a thing? 3 years without firing a shot, other than putting down some animal got itself hit by a truck. These past nights, we've gone through bullets like candy at Halloween. I used that jail cell to dry out old paperwork mostly, or Bill Dexter when he'd had a bad one. Now I've got all these folks good as locked in here, and no sleeping it off for the morning either. The way things are headed, I'm seeing us outlasting our supplies. Not by much, if it comes to that. Andy finds what he can, but with the cruisers stuck propping up the barricade... So I'm obliged to anyone who'll poke around town a piece. Bring in the essentials. We can call it requisitioning. I don't think the store owners will be writing this one off as an act of God. Now come back without a piece out of you.
I sense an alien presence. The fog obscures a terrible truth concealed behind a veil of... Sorry, old habits. Hey, just so you know, I don't do readings anymore. I've been outside. You don't need second sight to foretell our future. We're all doomed. It's not like I'm gonna need the money. It's strange, but it's the dreams that really get to me, not reality. I can handle reality, but those nightmares just... It's like a really annoying song that gets stuck in your head, repeating over and over and over again. The dreams are always about ravens. Thousands of ravens. Flapping wings, black feathers, dead eyes. Beaks and talons tearing and clawing and screeching. Wings of death and pestilence. A black, timeless malice covering Kingsmouth like a funeral shroud. You get the idea. I don't know what any of it means, but it's doing a number on my beauty sleep, I can tell you that.
Blessed are the meek, but doubly blessed are those who do the Lord's work boldly. It is through His grace that we find sanctuary in His house, when His house is besieged by zombies. Not to belittle the Lord's work, but perhaps the Illuminated Ones made this place a safe place through some conjuration of theirs. Blessed by the Lord, of course, or at the very least, tolerated. Whatever the providence of our sanctuary, it extends no further than the doorstep. Even the cemetery spills over with the devil's spawn. I've tried prayer, I've tried my 44, but Satan's wearing Kevlar, and Bible thumping just pisses them off. Kingsmouth is not a town without its blight, its fallow seasons. In times past, these lands have borne bad fruit. The demons are plucking forgotten apples that should have been left to rot on the boughs of Kingsmouth's tree, planted in unsanctified soil. By apples, I mean bodies. The tree represents, graves, and the unsanctified soil means, well, unsanctified soil. Unmarked graves. Mass graves. They operated with rationale, our illuminated ancestors. I'm sure of it. I mean, who am I to question these men of action? Those men of God. Even if they did stumble in their faith, well, that can happen to all of us. We forget to say grace. We lie. We cheat. We fornicate. We do worse. We have more immediate concerns than being ministers of past sins. What they're digging up is something that should remain buried, hidden from inquisitive eyes and wagging tongues. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Well, I don't mind telling you, this makes no damn sense to me. And I hate to be the one drawing a blank on Final Jeopardy. But right now, folks just need me to look like I got all the answers. The questions, they come later, along with the grieving. Then, after a little time, folks will lose their hankering for the questions. Fact is, a few of them in high places get downright evasive about it. If you're planning on striking out of town, Kingsmouth hospitality dictates I gotta set you right. And I need you to keep this on the down low. But there's worse out there than our undead problem. Worse than anything that shuffles along on two legs, that's for sure. I'm about as pleased as can be that I didn't catch a better look. Could be the kind of thing that gives a nightmare nightmares. Guess you could say I got lucky. Around the time this mess kicked off, I was up at the old lighthouse checking in on Sam Krieg, Maine's best-selling export. Oh sure, we do that fancy book learning around these parts too. Never much cared for horror stories or the man himself. Waving a rifle around in a dressing gown, juiced up, heck of a disturbance of the peace. Well, turns out that was the last of the peace. You sure you want to be talking to me about all this stuff? I mean, I'm probably flattered that you think I'm in on it all. Truth is, I'm always the last to be invited to the midnight meetings at Town Hall. Reckon I must be all thumbs when it comes to secret handshakes. Now come back without a piece out of you.
The Lady Margaret was a traumatic experience for everyone on board. They were changed men when they came back. I visited with all of them in the days following their return. In my office, there are detailed transcripts of our sessions. I'm afraid it all happened so fast that day there was no time to pack. I hope they may shed some light on what happened out there.
You spooked the heck out of me, and I figured I was fresh out of scares. I wanted to be a police officer since as far back as I could think. I had a lot of time to myself growing up. I watched all the cop shows, again and again. The old shows, when a good cop was always a good cop. When you knew you could trust a badge, right? You knew before the half hour was up, they'd get the guy. Out of the basement. Sure chokes me up seeing Main Street all done up in buntings and so empty. The kids love that Halloween parade, you know? Then they'd all bus on up Bangor, wait for the haunted hayrides, ever since our local amusement park closed down. They were troubles. Before my time. Oh, I knew everyone in Kingsmouth. A safe community isn't a spectator sport. I memorized that one. And Sheriff Bannerman preferred to have me walk in the beat, you know, while she handled house calls. That suited me just fine. You know, our folks were a good bunch. They only cause a ruckus when they've had too much of the, you know what. Moose says it's best to talk things out. So, here I am, talking. Mom bought the kittens and Dad drowned them. That's the facts of it. I don't like speculating much, that's one step away from guessing. And the sheriff, she taught me never to guess. Now the Walking Dead? I can wrap my head around that. They're dead folk, just walking is all. But those other things? Tall and pale, slimy as maggots. They washed up with the fog. They came and dragged the townsfolk out to sea. Drowned them. Just like my dad with the kittens. He took them out to sea in a garbage bag. Said they were gonna go for a swim. Said they needed the exercise. They never came back. A few years later, neither did my dad. Jeez, I still miss those kittens. The townsfolk, they did come back, dragging what looked like eggs. The big uns, they come out of those eggs, like something from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. They're littered all over the place and guarded, and I'm thinking to myself, Andy, that's gotta mean something. That's gotta be a clue. Why keep an eye on something if it ain't valuable? That's police work. That's deduction, plain and simple. So I'm thinking, what came first, the maggot or the egg? Obviously the egg, right?
Faction rank increased. Congratulations, rookie.
Good job. You really nailed this one. Keep this up and there's a place on the winning team when the dust clears. There's a pressure building, the kind that comes before a storm when it builds and builds but just won't break. Yeah, the Ravens, they feel it too. Last time I saw them like this, when the trees were more birds than branches, there were murders. Yeah, that was back in 2002, tail end of a long and wicked hot summer. By August, the whole town smelled rotten and we hadn't seen a drop of rain since June. When the storm finally broke and the Ravens flew, the killings stopped. Never believed what the paper wrote about that vagrant, neither did Helen, despite those boys in city council leaning on her. Well, she took a beating. Could have hurt her career, but she was right. Wasn't human hands cut those girls open. An unkindness of Ravens, isn't that what they call it? My idea of reading is the TV guide, not anything that could charitably be called literature. But even I know signs and portents when I see them.
Jack the lad? You found him.
It was always about deception. The crystal ball, the gypsy clothes, the fake accent. Cheap props to make the fortune cookies easier to swallow. My customers, they bought into it because they wanted to. If there's no free will, if it's all about fate, life is a whole lot simpler. We can just say, hey, it was meant to be, and get on with it. That's the key to fortune telling. That's why people fall for it. We're all prisoners of our search for a higher meaning. It's all about mutual deception. I never believed I was telling people anything they didn't already know. Until now. I have waking dreams. Visions. I see auras. Auras! Yours, by the way, is bright enough to blind me. I see through the eyes of others. I can even see into the future, for real. The paths of fate, clear as day. It's almost like I've become who I've pretended to be all these years. Or maybe I'm just going crazy. I could be going crazy. I wouldn't blame myself if I was going, oh, great. Here we go again. I'm having another vision. They come and go like headaches. I can't really control them. Quick, before it passes. I see your twin paths. One leads to salvation, the other to defeat. I see black tendrils rising to embrace you. Voices whispering in your ear. Corruption from within and from without. Something rising from the bottomless deep to devour us all. To turn day into night. Sorry. I see something else. Our paths intertwine, converge, and at the end of it, Exodus. Inescapable, permanent, fated. On the tip of the pyramid, your path shall be revealed. That's as good as it's gonna get. Make of it what you will. Sometimes I get more visions, like the aftershocks of an earthquake. If that happens, I'll let you know. You won't even have to pay my usual fee. Let's call it a freebie, sweetie. You might have heard some rumors about me. It's not true. Not all of it. I mean, sure, before all this happened, I was an active young woman. You know, I like to play. But that doesn't give anybody the right to badmouth me. Small towns are all the same, filled with small-minded and petty people. I suppose I got lucky when the fog came. I was, tied up in here. I had this uncontrollable urge to walk into the sea, let the waters swallow me. But I was unable to, due to, you know, the plush handcuffs. I'm not from Kingsmouth. I moved here about 10 years ago. In retrospect, perhaps not the best decision I've ever made. First, my husband left me, then I lost my house, my savings. Running away seemed like the best answer at the time. I moved around for a few years. I didn't have any applicable skills, no education. My options were limited. Hello, Kingsmouth, yeah. Some nights exist out of time. They're not part of one season or the next. They don't belong to the living or the dead. Boundaries collapse. Mortals meet with gods, demons, ghosts, all that crap. Sacrifice, purging, divination, summoning. There are certain kinds of crazy you can't get away with on normal nights.